Okay, O'Banion.
Okay.
Big guy.
Yeah.
Who is he?
O'Banion is basically, he's a football player. He hangs out with the guys. He's a year older than all these guys. He just found out today that the first day of the story, that he's not going to be graduating with his class. He missed an English credit, so he got to do another year at the school. Which he's not too upset about, I don't think. It's kind of like, well, take one class, come in at noon type of thing. He's kind of likes to party, likes to drink, He's kind of a tough guy. It's kind of the way he gets respect, Most people there are afraid of him, I think, because it's been in a lot of fights and people know that he can fight and stuff, so kind of, through that and football and kind of hanging out and being a jock, I'm a tough guy and a party animal that, he likes to fix his car, stuff like that.
What does he fear? Failing high school, obviously not being one of them.
He probably fears his old man. I think that it's kind of family where, his dad gets pissed and, whacks him occasionally. He's probably had a few times where he was embarrassed to show up at school because he had, a shiner or something. Other than that, I don't think he thinks too much about it. He's probably the kind of guy that would, if it were a different time, have joined the Army, if it wasn't Vietnam, just because he doesn't have much of anywhere to go or do, is pretty aimless, probably won't, no money and not enough motivation to try and go out and get a football scholarship, especially since I'm missing at eligibility, would have liked to have played football for another year, but you can only play 4 years, so.
What about girls?
He likes girls, never one to like really go after and put himself on the line, He would rather that they kind of come to him, but I don't think it's ever been too hard for him. Enough status and respect and sort of, high enough up on the ladder. He called Ben Affleck. It's a story about Ben Affleck doing this film.
Ben, I have a question for you.
Are we rolling?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're rolling.
More moments in the
Okay.
wind.
I'm just wondering how working on Dazed and Confused has been so far.
So far, it's been a lot of fun. It's been pretty cool. It's been a little bit rushed and a little bit hectic and a little bit, crazy because of all the stuff that we have to get done and all the stuff that everyone wants to contribute. Everybody has so much more than what's scripted. Me, everybody, and so it's like that you want to get all this stuff in there, and then, of course, even if you shoot it all, it makes for a 4-hour movie. So you can't. But so that's been fun, and still, even though you can tell that, like always, you got to rush, you got to go, we have to get this. People are still relaxed, and in terms of like just working with them and willing to let you just kind of go and, kind of do whatever you got to do so that it comes out the way you want it to.
How's it been working with an ensemble cast?
That's been fun actually. It's like because it's not just kind of like working with an ensemble cast. There's so many, with the exception of Jason Pink. Most of the characters sort of have their cliques, their group that they kind of stay to. The girls kind of have their girl group and they hang out with guys and stuff. But same thing with the guys. But for the most part, it's like the most of it has been hanging out with an ensemble. Doing this. Most of the time, you do something, you're like playing the son or the whatever, and there's 2 adult actors, and but this is a bunch of kids, every night, or young adults, every night everyone's going out and having fun, and like there aren't any big egos or people that make it not fun. Everyone's kind of willing to hang out with everybody else and see how much fun they can have and see how well you can get to know everybody else, and that that comes through, I think. You know what I mean? That shows, even if it's just like being comfortable with somebody or sitting, not ad-libbing or improvisation. It's so important to have like some kind of base. You know what I mean? It makes it so much easier when, like, if I'm doing something with Cole and I've like been hanging out with Cole anyway for months and we've been like doing whatever. So it's like the same thing. You know what I mean? And most people you find it's interesting because a lot of people you can see kind of like slipping, even in their social life and after work, they're kind of, you can see people sort of subconsciously like kind of slip into their characters, do stuff that their characters would do, you know what I mean? And so it's interesting to see people kind of change. I know that I've sort of gotten a little weird, you know what I mean? But it's cool. It's fun to watch and it's fun to be around, and it's a lot better than just sitting in your hotel room and it's like also you get to see, everybody's going out there and and it's like you always hearing reports from the field. Everyone's coming back like, oh, this they did this scene, the newspaper scene, or that scene, or this scene, and that's kind of fun. I mean, you talk about it, and it's like if you're young and an actor, it's always hard. I mean, I guess it's always sort of a little bit nerve-wracking, but everyone's real open and talks to each other, and there isn't a lot of that bullshit that's always associated with acting and actors and being neurotic and stuff. Everyone's kind of just cool, and it's been a lot more fun than usual.
What about high school? Is this reflective of high school for you?
I'll tell you what is reflective of high school for me. It's like my character, is pretty into the whole hazing thing, right? And I remember this is like all gone now. When I was like 8 years old and I first moved into the neighborhood where I grew up in the high school I was going to, I remember that there was the biggest thing was that the high school freshmen, except it was in the beginning of the year, I think it was the first 3 days of the year, would get, we called it stripped. What happened was if you were a freshman, in fact, they even went so far, they kind of institutionalized it because the school would let the freshmen out a half hour early, so they could get like a head start. And in my neighborhood, there would be like gangs of high school kids that would come through looking for freshmen. Like, you a freshman, you a freshman? And then we'd be like, no, and we were all planning what we'd say when we were freshmen, say we were in 8th grade or whatever. But it was like fun, we weren't totally terrorized. It was like attention, and it was fun. We'd get run from people, but they'd catch freshmen and they'd strip all their clothes off, and like they'd have to run home naked, and there was all these stories about kids who ran home with like paper plates, over their crotch or whatever, and you'd see like sneakers and clothes hang from telephone wires and stuff. So that was like perfectly reflective of my high school.